Okay, hi, I'm Brian.
So for our first question, what are the forms of governments and its description?
So first question is the form of government and the description in Canada. So Canadian government is something we call a representative parliamentary democracy, and we have a federal system. So we have a bigger government, the Canadian government, which represents the whole country. Then we also have a number of provincial governments and territorial governments that represent smaller units, and those kinds of governments, they have different powers and that they kind of share, and but they all have their own parliaments and their own elections and such.
So the Philippines is a unitary state with the president being the head of the state and the head of the government. So the government is made out of three branches, interdependent branches, which is the legislative, executive, and judicial system.
Political issues in Canada. A big one right now has to do with climate change and oil pipelines. So people in Alberta, they have a lot of oil there, and they want ways to get that oil to the sea, either to the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. But there are a lot of environmentalist people who don't want people to use oil because they're worried it's going to cause climate change, and so they try to stop them from getting that oil out of the ground, and so stop them from building pipelines. And so that's a major issue right now. Another one, there was this big scandal with SNC-Lavalin, which is this company that was accused of corruption, and there was a question of whether they should actually be prosecuted for that or not. The current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, thought they shouldn't because it would be bad politically, but his Minister of Justice thought that they should because of the rule of law, so that was a big scandal recently.
So for our political issue, I think one of the things that is happening in the Philippines is the extrajudicial killing. So many innocent people were involved in that, and the other thing is President Rodrigo Duterte is attacking the church. Not literally, but he wants to tax them, so which is a big issue because it's the church.
Can you tell us some economic issue in your country?
Economic issues, similar to a lot of other countries, we have an issue with an aging population. So in the next few decades, a lot of the population is going to be becoming older, kind of older than 70, and so they're all going to be retiring, and we have to be able to support them in their old age, but in order to do that, we have to have a lot of younger workers, and in our country, our own population doesn't have very many babies for whatever reason, so then there's a question of immigration and what kinds of immigrants we want to bring in, so there's a lot of complicated questions around that. And also just for like a younger generation like me, there's a lot of issues with kind of getting your first job or being able to get a job that pays you enough money to be able to afford housing in the big cities where all the jobs are, because the housing in the big cities is very expensive right now because a lot of people both from within the country or internationally want to buy the houses, and so they bid up the prices and make it really hard for young people to be able to afford their own place, especially on the kind of precarious jobs that a lot of them get.
Here in the Philippines, the economic issue is the high rate of unemployment. That's why many Filipino choose to leave the Philippines and go abroad to find a job. What is the unique cultural tradition in your country?
Canada's culture is interesting because it's based on, it's what we call a settler culture. So it was initially, a lot of our cultural practices were brought from Britain or from France, depending on if you're in Quebec or the rest of Canada. So a lot of them are similar to those. So if you look at British culture or French culture, you'll see a lot of similarities in Canada. We also have Aboriginal cultures that kind of have a lot of worship of nature or rituals with nature that I guess is a part of the Canadian cultural traditions as well. But we have similar ones to Americans, like we have Thanksgiving where we eat turkey and such, but we have it on a different day than they do, so I guess that's unique.
I just want to share some unique cultural tradition here in the Philippines. Me, as a Filipino, I believe that Filipinos are very respectful by doing what we call mano po. This is when children or young people greet or say goodbye to the elders. They take their right hand of the elders with their right hand and slightly touch the hand of the elders to their forehead. It's like this, and it's a way of giving respect to the elders.
So you told us that in your Thanksgiving Day you eat turkey, while in the Philippines it's not the case. We don't celebrate the Thanksgiving Day, and we don't eat turkey occasionally. Well, some of the Filipinos eat turkey, but not occasionally like yours in the Canada. What we have here in the Philippines is we have noche buenas in Christmas party. We eat a lot of food, and what's famous here is what you call adobo, which is a pork. So the next question is, what is your religion and some religious practices in your country?
Canada is becoming less of a religious country over time. Initially, it was an overwhelmingly Christian country, and especially a Protestant country. So there are a lot of churches, so like the United Church or the Anglican Church or Methodist churches or Baptist churches. Those were the biggest sects earlier, and we still have a lot of churches from those faiths. Also, a lot of Catholic people came over, either from Ireland or the Philippines or Italy, and so kind of over time we've added more religions as well, and also now we have Muslims, we have Buddhists, we have all kinds of people practice a lot of different religions, but I think the majority of Canadians don't really practice any religion.
So you mentioned a lot of religions in your country that has been influenced by other countries. But in the Philippines, in our country, most of the religions here are Christians or Catholics. There are some Muslims, but most of them are Catholics. So for our last question, is globalization affecting your country, and in what way?
Okay. Globalization affects Canada a lot. The number one is from immigration. So we have what we call a multicultural policy where we accept immigrants from all over the world and we kind of celebrate their cultures that they bring. So just even you walk around a city like Toronto, you'll see all kinds of different restaurants from all over the world, all kinds of different people, all kinds of different like culture traditions. So we have a lot of globalization just kind of right in our face, right in Canada. Another thing is a lot of the manufacturing jobs that we used to have around Ontario and other parts of Canada are now being moved to places like China or Mexico, and that's causing some problems for people who are used to doing manufacturing jobs. So it does cause that issue as well.
You have said that globalization has affected your country a lot, and that's the case too in the Philippines, in our country. Because many countries or other foreign countries has colonized us and influenced us through their culture and traditions that they brought here in our country. And many Filipinos practice and still practicing those traditions that other countries brought here. And I think that globalization is a good thing in our country because we are being united with the world and being connected to every people, knowing their culture, knowing them, and learning about them, learning about their issues, learning about their country.
Yes, the language, because Filipino loves to watch Korean, Japanese, and Chinese movies. They want to study the language so that when they watch the movies, they can understand it.
And thank you very much for letting us interview you, and thank you for educating us about your country.
Yeah, I mean that's good for now. So thanks.